Hey guys, Miss Scarborough here. So I'm sorry we didn't have time to actually have class today. We used our class time to help out Miss Farthing and also what you're going to do later for my class, the research paper. So before we move on to the Murders in the Rue Morgue, which is your homework for tonight, you're reading half of it, right? Pages 1 through 8. I want to be sure that we've thoroughly gone over Telltale Heart, which is what we read last week. So I'm going to briefly go through the answers, what you should have had. So what you should be doing now is you should have your answers out. You should be following along and you should be adding to your notes. You should be adding to your answers things that I'm saying. And I want you to do this in a different color than you originally wrote in. So that way I know that you actually watched this video and followed along. I'll be checking for this tomorrow for your homework credit. So let's go ahead and get into it. Again, I'm just going to briefly go over this. What does the story's title mean? So we know that at the end of the story, the narrator hears a heart beating. He thinks it's the old man's, right? He thinks it's the old man that he has murdered and dismembered and is in his house. He thinks he can hear that heart. But we know as the reader that our narrator is very unreliable, right? We have that unreliable narrator. That should be written somewhere on your paper. We cannot trust this guy because he is mad. He is crazy, okay? So he's hearing this heart, and we know that indeed it is not the old man's heart. It is his own, okay? So the title is referring to his heart, right? The title is alluding to the narrator's own heart. And that is what drives the narrator to confess his crime. So basically, that leads us to conclude that the narrator is insane and that the narrator feels guilt over the crime. And that's why he hears his own heart, which we could debate like, is he really insane if he's able to feel this guilt? That's a subject for another day, right? A psychoanalysis of the narrator. But we know that he indeed is mad, but that he does feel remorse and that the telltale heart is his own heart screaming out at the end, basically wanting him to confess. Number 2, the narrator claims he is not mad. What evidence do we have that he is? Please list 3 reasons and parenthetically cite quotes that support your reasonings. So guys, you need to be sure that your quotes are parenthetically cited and that it's correct. Because if you're practicing how to do this wrong, it's not going to help you out when it comes time for the essay, right? So be sure you're looking at my examples that you're actually citing correctly, okay? That's the whole point why we do this. So there's a bunch of different reasons. I'm going to go through these really quickly. So he murders the old man because of his vulture eye. That's not a legit reason to marry someone, right? To murder someone. So we know that that makes him a little insane. And that was on page 1. Hears sounds from hell. You could find examples of that. He dismembers the dead man's corpse. He hears the beating of the dead man's heart. He is paranoid, right? This is one of the best quotes, in my opinion, from the short story. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the sense? So we know that his senses, right? His sight, his hearing, his smell, even, he literally, it's like hypersenses. He hears everything. He sees everything. And it's really not normal. And then also just how nervous he is. We have in the opening line, nervous, dreadfully nervous, right? He's going on and on about how nervous he is. So those are all examples of why this narrator is not reliable, why he is mad when he claims he's not. So what does the narrator do with the dead man's body? Okay, kind of gross, but he literally dismembers it and he places it underneath the floorboards. And then when the investigators come and the cops show up, he invites them to sit, and they're literally sitting like right above where the old man has been dismembered. So yeah, not cute. Okay. Why does the narrator want to kill the old man? So what reason does he give? Okay. I mean, this is on the first page, right? He says, object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. So there's no true reason why he should kill the old man, but the reason he gives for wanting to is this eye, this vulture eye. The narrator visits the old man's bedroom every night for 7 nights before killing him on the 8th night. What finally causes him to commit the act? Cite one quotation. Okay, so I'm just going to read this for you guys. He hears the old man's heart. The narrator says, "It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into rage. The hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come." So basically, this heartbeat becomes louder and louder in his mind, and the only way to stop the heartbeat is to kill the man in the narrator's eyes. Okay? Number 6, the two controlling symbols in the story are the eye and the heart. What might these two symbols represent? So we have the eye, we have this pale blue with a film over it. So this is symbolic of this idea that there's a lack of clarity, okay? There's a lack of reliability when it comes to the old man's eye, but also the narrators. It also symbolizes how the narrator begins to see things through this unfiltered eye, right? What he's saying is very distorted. It's not clear. And we know that his actions are because of the eye, and then we hear it only through that perspective. So the eye is not only tied to the old man that he kills, but also to the narrator himself and the unreliability and the lack of clarity. So also the heart being a symbol, we know that usually the heart traditionally symbolizes the emotional center of the individual, right? Follow your heart, we hear in like a lot of stories. In this case, the heart should not be followed, right? In this case, the heart leads the narrator down a really terrible path of destruction. And it also symbolizes his guilt in the end. Number 7, list 3 examples of how Poe creates suspense in the story with the supporting quotations. So I only found, let's see, this is a little wonky. I only found 3 for you guys here, but you need to be sure that you like have examples for every 3. I only did 1 example. So these are the 3 main reasons that you might see again on a quiz, okay? Foreshadowing, pacing, and the dangerous action. So foreshadowing, we have it in that very first page when he says, "I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him." So we already know that there's a murder that's going to be taking place within the 3 pages of the story. Pacing, I don't mean the actual physicality of the narrator pacing. I mean the way that Poe paces the story, right? It doesn't just happen in one paragraph. It's very elongated. It's over this extended period of time that you have to read, and you're on the edge of your seat, like wondering what's going to happen here. Even though you know he's going to die, you don't know how or why. So also dangerous action. So examples would be when the narrator sits the police right over where the body is buried, all of those things. So be sure you have 3 examples. I only have 1 here because I want to urge you to find your own examples and be sure that you write those down. Okay, guys, so that's it when it comes to reviewing this story. I'll answer any further questions you have, but again, we're moving on to Murders in the Rue Morgue for homework tonight. So be sure you do that, and if there's any confusion, to let me know tomorrow in class. So bring these notes with your notes as well as the colored notes you took during this mini lecture, and you'll get an amazing homework grade. All right, well, I will see you guys tomorrow, and have a great evening.